Alright, welcome to my hottest takes of UFC fighters in 2024. Now, because it is the end of the year, of course, I'm going to be doing a lot of these end of the year type style videos, and I kind of wanted to express my hot takes that I think a lot of people disagree with. And I'm not saying this just for like rage bait and all this other shit. I genuinely believe these things, and I genuinely will stand on them, and I'll genuinely argue with you. Yeah, argue. I don't whatever. English is a hard language. Regardless, it's my only language I know. Regardless, I will argue about it because I do genuinely believe these things, and I do genuinely think they're valid arguments to make. But I kind of see a lot of people disagreeing online, I will say. Or at least that's the narrative I'm thinking they might disagree with, or maybe some things that I think might catch people by surprise and be like, nah, you're a dumbass for thinking that, but upon further inspection, but yeah, anyways, these are my hot takes in MMA, in regards to fighters and more specifically matchups, and maybe futures of their career. But yeah, starting off, we have Jamal Hill. Now, what's my hot take about Jamal Hill? Ooh, well, I think Jamal Hill beats John Jones. I said it. I think Jamal Hill right now beats John Jones at heavyweight or light heavyweight. For one, I don't think John Jones would make light heavyweight, so Jamal Hill would have to move up to heavyweight. I think Jamal Hill actually does sleep Jones within 3 rounds, and I think if it's a 5-round fight, I think Jamal Hill would probably still sleep him early, and by early, like the second to third round. I think Jamal Hill actually has an underrated record in a way, just in terms of he's got a lot of finishes, man, and the guy he didn't finish is Glover Teixeira. And Glover is like a pretty tough dude, and there's a lot of times where you could have arguably stopped that fight, notably all the cuts on his face. And I know that's probably wear and tear more than like power or anything, but knocking out Thiago Santos, I think is still a decent knockout. Knocking out Johnny Walker in round 1, that's better than Ankalaev. It took Ankalaev 2 fights to do that, right? And everyone's saying Ankalaev beats Alex Pereira. Yeah, okay, but regardless, those were just 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago, he fought Glover for the belt. And his recent fight, yeah, he got knocked out by Pereira. I'm picking Jamal Hill to beat Ilia Prochazka. And I know Cap think Jamal Hill does smoke John Jones. I think John Jones right now does look like shit, Wow, he took down a guy who's never grappled a day in his life and who plays FIFA all day in Cyril Gane. Congrats. Literally get a gold medal for doing that, Like, Jesus Christ. What a fucking overrated win. We all saw Cyril Gane lose to Volkov. I think we can collectively say Volkov beats John Jones by decision. Maybe that's another hot take. But anyways, I think Jamal Hill, sweet dreams, does put John Jones to sleep. I think Jamal Hill is the style to do it. Jamal Hill is a really good blitzer. In a way, he's kind of like a black Robert Whittaker. He's got really good wrestling, he's got really good blitzes, and he's got a fairly good chin. He got knocked out Pereira. Hey, guess who else got knocked out by Pereira? Everyone Pereira's fucking fought in the UFC other than Bruno Silva. Wow, shocker. Like, oh no, he lost to Pereira. Oh no, he did get submitted by the... I know it's a TKO, but kind of technically was a submission because his arm got snapped. Even though his arm got snapped, didn't flinch and was still fighting. Kind of Giga Chad from Jamal Hill. And again, that was only like 3-4 years ago. That wasn't that long ago. That really wasn't that long ago. Where his arm got snapped and he just shrugged it off. Yeah, he got TKO'd by the great Paul Craig. But Paul Craig has that rare ability where he'll just expose you. Like his power level increases with the danger of his opponent, But yeah, I think Jamal Hill's got sneaky power. I think he's got good blitzes. I think he's got good statistics. 6'4". Isn't John Jones? I think John Jones is like 6'5" or 6'4". So I think Jamal Hill is like roughly the same size. Doesn't have the reach advantage, but doesn't need it. We saw Stipe get close with some shots in Stipe versus Jones. And old man Stipe doesn't have the power to finish Jones. I think Jamal Hill does. Even though he did get finished. Are we forgetting this guy, like, does finish people? You know, I know it's Johnny Walker, right? And Jimmy Crute, but, you know, he's finishing Open St. Peru. I didn't see John Jones do that, you know? Just saying, I do think Jamal Hill is being slept on, and I think he does sleep Jones if they were to ever fight. I know they're probably never going to fight. I say probably. I think they're never going to fight. I think that's fair to say. But I think, genuinely, Jamal Hill's style is the perfect style to beat John Jones. I was forgetting his name for a second. Sorry, it's late right now for me. But yeah, I do think Jamal Hill actually is the exact style to beat a John Jones. And there is, like, obviously Aspinall can, but I think Aspinall has the blitzes. Jamal Hill also has blitzes, but he also has that sneaky power, you know? And I think that's how John Jones will get knocked out. I think he does, you know, think that he's not going to get knocked out by a lot of these 40-year-olds that he fights. Jamal Hill is not 40. And I know he's only getting older, but he's still, like, sneaky powerful, I feel, personally. So, yeah, my hot take is I think Jamal Hill does sleep Jones, and I think Jones is one of the most beatable champions currently right now on the roster, just based off the last performances. And we all know you're only as good as your last fight, and that's how the MMA community reacts. So how about we keep that same energy and admit that John Jones looks like shit, and Stipe Miocic won a round on the scorecards. That's an objective fact. Anyways, moving on to the next hot take on fighters. Alex Pereira. Now, what's my hot take here? I've been saying it for a while. Pereira knocks out Ankalaev. I think he makes it easy. I think he might even do it in round 1. I think Ankalaev's not going to shoot takedowns. He said he wants to knock out Pereira. He doesn't fucking shoot takedowns. The last takedown he shot was actually against Jan Blachowicz. He looks like shit in every single... Sorry, he doesn't look like shit. He looks like he's barely better than his opponent every single fight. Even against Johnny Walker. It took him 2 fights to get a clean KO. It took him how long to get a KO? What, 2 rounds? 3 rounds? Too long, brother. Too long. Jamal Hill's getting it done in 1. You know? And that's a prime Johnny Walker that he's finishing there. You know? Not liking it. A lot of people think that Ankalaev is somehow a better grappler than what Alex Pereira's fought. Jan Blachowicz is arguably a better grappler than Ankalaev. Alex Pereira out-grappled Jan Blachowicz. So, yeah, enough said, I guess. Ankalaev, at the end of the day, has shit wins. I guess his best win is probably over Rakic, but that's Yuri's best win, arguably. Maybe you could say Glover's the better win, but Yuri did finish Rakic. But, like, Yuri's lost twice to Pereira? I genuinely don't see how Ankalaev beats Alex anywhere. Ankalaev doesn't have good power. Pereira's shown to have a pretty good shin in fucking light heavyweight. Pereira's shown that he's outclassed every single striker he stepped into the cage with. I don't understand where Ankalaev beats Pereira. Genuinely. He's not going to be the bigger dude out there. Like, genuinely, how does... I don't get it. I don't get it. Ankalaev fans are... They're coping. I don't know. It's weird. But, yeah, I think Pereira does just knock out Ankalaev. And I think he does also have a good chance of knocking out Jones. Everyone's like, oh, Jones shoot a double leg. GG. Jones doesn't shoot double legs. Jones kind of doesn't really go for takedowns. He kind of more often than not goes for, like, trips. You're not getting that close to trip up Pereira. And if he is shooting takedowns, I think Pereira is going to be smart enough to see a takedown coming from a 38-year-old man. Flying knee, you know? And out of the two 37-year-olds, tell me which one has the better striking. Oh, just tell me. Please tell me which one has the better striking. Because if it's not Pereira, you're just wrong. Which one has the better grappling? Is it Jones at 38? I don't know, you know? And his whole career, maybe. At 38-year-old Jones... I don't know, you know? No, you probably give the grappling edge to Jones, but Jones has to get the grappling going, you know? And I think it's a lot harder to do on Pereira than everyone makes it out to be. You can't just shoot a double leg, you know? Or you'll end like Aljo, on the ground, face first on the canvas, knocked out cold, you know, by O'Malley. You know, I think Pereira's got a really good shot at just beating fucking Jones. You know, and I think Alex also, if he does get nut-shotted, as Jones does. Eye poked, as Jones does. Oblique kicked, as Jones does. Alex is going to ignore it and just knock his ass out like he did Jamal Hill. I think it's that simple, right? So I think Alex is the best striker in the UFC right now, and I think he smokes everyone. I don't think anyone can beat Alex Pereira. I guess that's kind of my hot take. I think Alex Pereira's unbeatable right now, and I don't think anyone does. Maybe Aspinall, but that's kind of like, yeah, that's in the future. I don't have to think about that right now. Anyways, moving on. Next hot take that I'm sure not a lot of people agree with based on his last performance. I think Bryan Battle still got a good pathway to the belt right now. I'm not gonna lie. Now it is welterweight. Keep that in mind. And he did just beat Randy Brown via split decision. However, there's a lot of things a lot of people are forgetting. Number one, Bryan Battle was injured in the camp to fight Randy Brown. I know that's a common excuse. Popped ribbed. It is what it is. This is his first time making a back-to-back fight in, or first time fighting 3 times a year in welterweight, right? But he's submitting AJ Fletcher. AJ was supposed to be the guy to get the submission. Knocked out Gabe Green within a few seconds. Is what it is. His only loss in the UFC is to Renat Fakardimov, which is a good loss to have because Renat hasn't lost yet. So that's a pretty good fucking loss to have. And even then, it's like he lived and learned, and now he's sporadically learning, you know? It's almost a similar case with Paul Craig, right? We saw Paul Craig kind of fraud check Jamal Hill. What did Jamal Hill do? Go on a winning streak, get the belt, and now he lost to Pereira because of injuries. But Bryan Battle, yes or no, has better clinches than fucking Ian Gary and Shavkat. Like, this was a split decision, but that was only because Randy Brown was able to get a trip in round 1. And made it kind of close on the feet. But arguably, Bryan Battle was winning a lot of the striking exchanges. And if we're being fair here, Bryan Battle needed to clinch. Randy Brown was initiating a lot of the clinches, and when it got to the cage, Bryan Battle just flipped it on Randy Brown, and he was just outlanding him in the clinch, straight up. It's not like every single time Bryan Battle was going into the clinch, and he's like, okay, we live in the clinch now. He was kind of like, oh, Randy Brown wants to play in the clinch? Okay, let's play in the clinch, you know? Randy Brown also was on a 5-fight win streak. Randy Brown's also a really good striker. Just saying, right? He knocked out the great Muslim Salikov, who just spinning wheel kicked to fucking the guy who knocked out, or knocked down Ian Gary, I should say. You know? A 40-year-old phenom. But, yeah, Randy Brown's a good win. And, yeah, it's a split decision. But I think it was a clear 2-1, I'll be honest, for Bryan Battle. And I think, like, Randy Brown's just a tough test for anyone. Especially a winning streak Randy Brown. Come on now, bruh. You know? And Bryan Battle, I think, has an easy way to the belt. When we're not like, easy in terms of, like, just give him the belt like a Steve Erceg. But if we look at welterweight, I think Bryan Battle beats every one of these top 7 guys for sure. I think he does beat MVP because he's got good game plans. I will say that, you know, when the grappling wasn't working in his Kevin Jousset fight, he went to the striking and he whooped Kevin Jousset on the feet, you know. When grappling wasn't working against Randy Brown and striking wasn't really working that well, he went to the clinch, you know. So I like seeing that from Bryan Battle. I still think Bryan Battle's got really good potential. I still think that Bryan Battle's still live for a belt, you know. And at the end of the day, this is a split decision to Randy Brown, right? The next guy who might be fighting for the belt in welterweight is Joaquin Buckley off another really good win. And Joaquin Buckley's record is not the craziest. You know, he got knocked out by, he is very active to be fair, but he's been knocked out by Chris Curtis. You don't see that, you know? He's been knocked out by Nasruddin Mamavov. He's been knocked out by Kevin Holland, he lost via decision to Mamavov. You know, but he's been knocked out by Kevin Holland. You don't see that happen. You know? So, obviously, Joaquin Buckley's biggest weakness is probably his shin. Bryan Battle just seems to be like, oh, he was injured in camp. It is what it is. He still fought through it, and he still beat a guy off a crazy win streak. So, he was whooping Angelusa before the no contest. Eye poke was a baby poke. Barely barely grazed the eye, and Angelusa quit that fight. And he's whooping people, you know? So I think Bryan Battle's still a good idea to keep a good eye on. I still think he's potential here. You know, a lot of people are writing him off. I'm still riding with my boy Battle. I'm still on the train. Anyways, moving on. Next hot take I have is... This one's not really... This is like a lukewarm take. I think Diego Lopez beats Ilia Topuria. I have decided I'm picking Diego Lopez if there's a signing between him and Ilia. I think Diego Lopez is the style to beat Ilia. I think Diego Lopez is tough enough to survive Ilia in round 1. And I don't know if Ilia is tough enough to survive Diego Lopez in round 1. Round 1 Diego Lopez is a phenom, you know? Look at all these round 1s. Gavin Tucker is what it is. Submitted his ass in one of the most impressive fashions. Pat Sabatini knocked his ass out. Chinny fighter is what it is. Knocked out Sadiq Youssef when Edson Barbosa couldn't. Edson's got some of the best knockout highlights. Couldn't do it to Sadiq Youssef. Tried his ass off to try to knock out Ige. Didn't work out because Ige just has infinite chin health. And Ige also is... he was 165 for this fight. Diego Lopez had to weigh in 3 different times in that fight, which is a big factor in terms of how hydrated he is on fight day. So, you know... I think if this was 145, both of them, drained Ige, I do think Lopez actually does knock him out, based on the shots he was landing. And then Brian Ortega got knocked out in round 1, and he was woke up within the same combination. No one does that to Brian Ortega. That was a crazy finishing sequence, where he literally slept him and woke him up within one combination. Crazy. If Lopez watches that fight back, the only thing he can do is not be good enough to land a strike after landing a KO blow. You know? He has to lower his skill level to secure a KO. That's how good Diego Lopez is. And you can tell Lopez wanted to submit Ortega, but Ortega was just trying his best to survive. Which is kind of what that fight ended up being. I think Lopez is the style to beat Ilia Topuria. I think he will stand and bang with Ilia Topuria, and I do think Lopez genuinely has the power to stand and bang with Ilia. Ilia's not fighting high power guys. He fought Josh Emmett, but he just avoided Josh Emmett's overhand. Everyone can in the highest level. That's why Josh Emmett's not a champion. Now, Volkanovski doesn't have the power to finish Ilia, but there's a chance he could have went to decision. Max Holloway doesn't have the power to finish Ilia, but there's a chance he wins by decision. Diego Lopez has a chance to finish Ilia on the feet. And if you go and watch Volk and Max versus Ilia, I'm telling you, man, Ilia's hittable. He does take damage, and he does lose rounds. If he thinks, oh, I'm going to do the same thing against Lopez as I did to Max Holloway, he will get knocked out. And that's my personal hot take. I think Lopez knocks him out in the first round. And I think it's not even a case of Ilia being a better skill-for-skill guy. I think it is just going to be Lopez is going to stand and bang. And both of these guys are fast as fuck. I rate their speed the exact same. I think their power is close to the exact same. Maybe Ilia has a slight edge. I think Lopez has a much better chin than Ilia, personally. And I think Lopez is really good at not getting hit, compared to Ilia getting hit. I know you'll see like those highlights of Ilia, you know, blocking to the body and then blocking to the head. He did that against Josh Emmett and like once or twice against Max Holloway. 9 out of 10 times, he is absorbing a jab to the face. I think Ilia might get rocked by a jab to the face by Diego Lopez. That's what I'm sensing. Just my MMA tingling. But yeah, that's my hot take. I think Lopez is the style to beat Ilia. And I would pick Lopez to beat Ilia moving in 2025. Moving on. We have another guy I think is really, really underrated. Dan the Hangman Hooker. I love this guy, man. One of my favorite fighters in the UFC currently. I picked him in these 3 fights. I picked him in these 2 fights. I wasn't too big on picking fighters in this sort of era. Here, I was kind of just watching UFC and highlights and shit. Kind of. But Jalen Turner, I picked Dan Hooker to beat. And Mateus Gamrot, I picked Dan Hooker to beat. And let me tell you why. I think Dan Hooker, when he has a training camp, is a really hard fighter to beat. this Dan Hooker is a really hard fighter to beat. We're seeing like a Max Holloway prime where he's getting his prime later in his years. You know, this guy is going to be the next DP, Dustin Poirier. And I do think he's just going to be a killer gatekeeper at lightweight for a long time. Even though Dustin Poirier is, what, like only 36, 37? Might not even be that old, to be honest with you. Sorry, I just dropped a fucking... Anyways, yeah, Dan Hooker, my hot take, I think he genuinely has I think he has the best chance at beating Islam out of the top 5. I said it. I think he has the best chance of beating Islam out of the top 5. When we look at the top 5, you have Justin Gaethje, which I don't think he just has the grappling defense to handle Islam. Charles Oliveira, we saw how that went. Arman Tsarukyan, I think, loses, just because Islam's going to be better everywhere slightly. Dustin Poirier, while it was close, he did get finished. Max Holloway, I don't think he has the grappling or the takedown defense to really survive that long with Islam. I think Dan Hooker has the best takedown defense out of everyone here. And I do think he has enough striking to be able to knock out Islam Makhachev. You know, I think Islam does kind of have one of these not really great chins. And I think Dan Hooker has enough power to sleep him if the right shot lands. And I think his takedown defense has only improved in his last 2 fights for sure. He broke Jalen Turner, absolutely broke him in those final 2 rounds. And he absolutely whooped fucking Gamrot's ass in those final 2 rounds as well. He showcased great takedown defenses against Gamrot. And Gamrot has arguably more dominant grappling than Islam. Before that fight, everyone's like, Gamrot's the guy to beat Islam. Well, Hooker just beat Gamrot. I think Hooker's got the style to beat Islam. Dangerous striker, great takedown defense, great scrambling ability, gets to his feet. Not really a submission threat, but he's good enough to like get to his feet. He is a big dude, to be fair. You know, 6 foot tall at lightweights, not a bad height. You know, he's got a good reach. You know, and I know you're obviously like, well, he got Kimura in round 1 to Islam. Listen, that was short notice. That was before Hooker reached his tattooed prime that he's in now, you know? I think he has learned in the past 4 years how to really fight Islam. And I do think Islam's getting close to rematch city. And I think Dan Hooker is going to be first in line, let me tell you. Especially if Dan Hooker gets a win over Justin Gaethje or something. I think Hooker is going to be right there for title contention. Or just gets a title shot off his next fight. Or gets a title shot if no one's available. Because Dan Hooker's got a good case. He just whooped Gamrot. That fight, I know it's a split decision. It's not really that close. Like, I think it is pretty clear Dan Hooker 2-0. Or 2-1, you know? So, that's my hot take. I think Dan Hooker, out of the ranked lightweights, actually has the best chance of beating Islam. I think Diego Lopez is the style to beat Ilia Topuria. And I'm picking Diego Lopez to beat Ilia Topuria. I think Brian Battle has really good odds of being a champion in 2 years, probably 2026. I think Alex Pereira easily sleeps on Kalaev, probably first or second round. And I think he easily sleeps Jones, probably first or second round. I think Jamal Hill also could beat John Jones. I think skill for skill, Jamal Hill's on the same level, and I think he's got the style to beat Jones. Those are my hot takes for MMA for the closing of the year. I kind of just wanted to make them vocal. I stand on these takes. I truly do believe in them. I'm not trying to rage bait or anything. These are genuinely just my opinion. If you get triggered by it, it says more about you than it does me. Just saying. Anyways, with all that being said, I want to thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. I appreciate everyone who takes the time to, like the video, comment, do whatever you want, even shit talk. You know, I appreciate the passion. It's kind of what I do YouTube for. Kind of just like making passionate stuff, passionate content, and passionate response to the lukewarm IQ in the comment section. But regardless, thank you guys for watching, and as always, I hope you have a good day.